Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. And here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, over there in Asia, Nikkei down over 2%, following Monday's Dow down of over 600 points. Shanghai and Hang Seng, they hang a little flat. Over there in Europe, everything's up just a tiny bit. But here in the States, another volatile day. That's right, markets are up almost 200, down almost 200, and then closed down 100 on the Dow side. NASDAQ, bleep, kind of flat. Oil, hey, could be Friday the 13th if you're in the oil business, man. Shoo! West Texas down over 8%. Brent crude down over 7%. This is the sharpest downturn for oil going back to the 80s. It was like unprecedented. And on gold, kind of flat. Same too with Bitcoin. Dow falls in wild sessions as Wall Street fails to recover from sharp losses. Yep. The major indexes hit their session high after White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow confirmed reports of renewed talks between the U.S. and China trade. So that's when the markets went up. They keep using this one stupid excuse a day for the market volatility. Why are oil prices down? Could it be demand and too much supply? The overhanging issue in this market has been China. So anytime you get positive news on that, it's going to be good for stocks, said Schwab's Frederick said. The CBO volatility index, in the meanwhile, widely considered the best fear gauge in the market, is up more than 67% this quarter. And of course, energy was the worst performing sector as these crude prices really went down. Oil. Crude plunges, deepening the slide into bear territory, as growing supply is poised to swamp demand next year. That's right. On Tuesday, OPEC knocked down its forecast for 2019 demand growth for the fourth time in as many months. The cartel said production increases from non-OPEC countries will outpace demand growth next year. So here's the thing. They're going back and forth. Are they going to cut production so they bring up prices? Or because President Trump came out and said that hopefully Saudi Arabia and OPEC will not be cutting oil production. Oil prices should be much lower based on supply. So here's the deal. You saw the problems going on in Saudi Arabia. Hey, that guy Khashoggi, he's out of the news, right? You don't know what happened to him. That's only over a month ago. It's called protection. We'll protect you, but you got to do what we want you to do. So Trump is putting pressure on them to keep prices down, and it's working. But the reality is, it's a much bigger story than that. It's the rising dollar, as we have been long saying. Senators urged Trump to stop criticizing the Fed. 2 senators called on President Trump to stop publicly criticizing the Federal Reserve and warned his comments could jeopardize the central bank's credibility. Jeopardize the credibility of the central banksters? What are you, joking? Of course you're joking, because you're low-life politician, slime ball, you know what. The Federal Reserve has no right being here. It's against everything this country was built upon. The greatest issue during the 1800s in presidential campaigns was not to let the banksters run the country. So who are the clowns that said it? Let's see here. In a letter to Mr. Trump, Senator Chris Coons and Jeff Flake. Great. Coons and Flake. You can't make it up, man. Coons and Flake. Yeah. Coons and Flake. Oh, they know what they're talking about. A Republican and Democrat. Murderers and thieves. Quote, your ill-advised comments go beyond holding the Fed accountable, said Senators Coons and Flake. Quote, you appear to be telling the Fed what to do with interest rates, which we believe is unconstructive and dangerous. Who are you? What do you guys know about anything? The credibility of the Feds, man, they called it wrong all the time. Got it wrong, called it wrong. Trump's right on this, because when them interest rates go up, as we have been saying now, since February, and the dollar gets stronger, Coons and Flake, they should do a comedy show. Oh, I forgot. You already got the comedy show going. Tune into the Senate. Yeah. The stronger the dollar gets, the higher interest rates goes. The global economies are going down. Coons and Flake. But nobody talks about this because now it's big news. They're starting to realize it. Top story in yesterday's CNBC website. There's something behind this market sell-off that no one is talking about. Wonder what it could be. This is their headline story. You know what they say? The strong dollar. No kidding. And the guy that wrote this, they're on our press list. We've been saying this in how many of your trend alerts, man? Woo! For how long? Just news now. That's why you subscribe to the Trends Journal. That's why you have trends in the news and your trend alerts. History before it happens. Well, they give you 5, 6, 7, 8 months ago's news tomorrow. The dollar's strength Monday was largely attributed to weakness in the British pound and euro because of negative Brexit news and concerns about Italy's budget. Yeah, You know what that is.
Warning, warning, bullshit alert.
Total bullshit. Nothing to do with that. Rising interest rates. End of story. But too much of a story for you guys to handle. Oh, this was the headline in today's Financial Times. Now, oil prices went up yesterday. Oil jumps as Saudi Arabia eyes output cuts despite Russian stance on supply. Oil jumped as much as 2% yesterday after Saudi Arabia opened the door to cutting crude production. Yep. Tuesday, 13th November 2018, today. So, yesterday's news. Look what happened in one day. They're wrong on everything. This is a global slowdown. We called it, you remember your trend alert, September 19th, 2018, the day before the markets in the United States peaked. Prepare for an economic 9/11, a global slowdown. Global growth is slowing, and markets need to pay attention. Who said this? The International International Monetary Fund says growth is slowing in a number of the world's biggest economies. Quote, although still supportive of growth, global financial conditions have started to tighten. The IMF said higher U.S. interest rates, a stronger dollar, and financial market volatility could bring pressure in some emerging markets and developing economies. Really? How long have we been saying this? How many months? Oh, only since February. Quote, a worsening of these developments, or faster than anticipated monetary policy tightening in advanced economy, increases the risk of a sudden reversal in global risk appetite, the report said. Great. Oh, IFO. World economic climate deteriorates further. Economic expectations were scaled back considerably. Growth is waning in the world economy. According to experts, deterioration in worldwide economic expectations was particularly clearly reflective in weaker private consumption. And you know what else they say? They also expect far weaker growth in world trade. Yeah, because people don't have the dough to spend stuff. Weaker private consumption. Eurozone economy seen cooling. Yep, the Eurozone economy will cool over 2018 and the coming years as global demand for bloc's exports wanes. Wonder why they're waning. What are they waning for? More money. Your 5-0 formula. The people aren't getting any more money. It's all going into the hands of the very rich and the multinationals. So consumption is going down. The bloc cut its 2019 growth forecast to 1.9% and slow down to 1.7% in 2020. It's like no growth at all. It'll be worse. Globally, Indian lenders fear worsening credit crunch. So what does that mean? A slowdown. Overbuilt and undersold when you look at their markets, particularly in real estate. Funding crisis hits non-bank sector that loaned money for properties that remain unsold, and it keeps going on. It's all about the money that people have. Auto sales in China declined for a fourth straight month. And you know the reason they give? A confluence of factors is dissuading buyers, according to auto analysts. A sense of pessimism about the Chinese economy, fueled by the trade disputes with the U.S., is deterring consumers from spending, while credit has tightened in many smaller cities. Consumers could give a damn about trade issues. It's what they said, that credit is tightening. They don't have the money to buy the cars. Auto sales last month declined 12% from a year earlier. Some industry analysts say that it is likely to change soon as Beijing works to pump up an economy weighed down by burdens, you ready? Including the trade fight with the U.S. Has nothing to do with it. That's not why passenger cars were down 13% in October. And Ford's China sales fell by more than 40%. China had for some time allowed peer-to-peer lending schemes where wealthier people could lend money to the less wealthy. But the recent crackdown on such practices has shut down several companies facilitating the process and left those remaining lenders skittish, along with many consumers, according to Michael Dune, CEO of ZozoGo, a firm that advises automakers on doing business in China. All right? Nothing to do with trade wars. Beijing cracks down further on student and labor activists. Remember, I've told you back in the day, they used to report how many protests were going on in China. It was like 30 to 40,000 a year. They don't report that anymore. They're clamping down on activists because the economy is slowing down. And you know, we've told you about how there's also major protests going on as housing values, apartment dwelling values are going down. Developers are lowering the price, and the people are angry that they paid up here and now they're selling the price down here. So what do we have? President Xi invokes Mao with call for self-reliance. Even as Mr. Xi sought to position China as a champion of globalization amid the U.S. retreats into protectionism, the call for, quote, self-reliance highlights how Mr. Xi is also advocating mercantilist policies that could reshape global supply chains. Self-sustaining economies. Remember, 80% of China's GDP consumer-driven, and the consumers are running out of dough. And then on the international front, more good news for America. Yeah, the land of war. Taliban destroys army base in northern Afghanistan, kills 16. Bodies pile up as Taliban overrun Afghan haven. In Afghan haven, oh, you know who's in the Afghan haven? The dead all wore the desert brown boots of the Afghans' finest troops, the Special Force Commandos trained by the United States. Yep, 40 of them dead. U.S. arms sales rise after pressure on allies. U.S. weapons sales to foreign governments rose 33% this year. And what doesn't make any of the American news, U.S. airstrikes kill at least 41 civilians in eastern Syria. They're only eastern Syrians, who cares? And that's why we sent you out this special trend alert, U.S. elections. Not a word about wars, not a peep about peace. Beware. Beware. A lot's going on, particularly in the Middle East now with Israel, the word's out, set to invade Gaza. We'll see what goes on, but it's going to continue to spread. Saudi Arabia is in trouble. Yemen is a hellhole. Syria, war still's going on. And then there's the Iran issue that's heating up. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.